Glad you guys saved me a little bit of time, because I think this is a very important issue with the city, and that is whether or not we're ever going to get any recycled water on any of our medians or anywhere else other than where it is currently being used in the city of Santa Clarita. That's not a lot. So I just want you to understand, and I'm going to run through some of these slides really quick until I get to the last ones, that this is not an issue that we first discovered. Because we were talking about this even before July 2014, but I want to show you that we were talking about it in July of 2014. And in July of 14, Lorraine West, who is our city council person and also one of the individuals on the Sanitation District Board, said this project, which is determining how much water that we're discharging in the river can be used for recycling, is going to give us a source of very high quality recycled water, and we can use to create local water sustainability. And the reason why is because today we throw 20 million gallons of water a day into the river. And they estimated when we first started this chloride project that we would need to put 13 million gallons of water a day into the river to sustain the habitats of some of the species that live in the river. I never did understand that, because I'll bet that those endangered species were living there long before 1965, when we didn't put any water in the river. Keller was saying the same thing. Hey, practical business standpoint, we need to keep moving forward and collaborating with all the water agencies and businesses so that we can reduce the amount of water that we import from the state. Now, at the time that they started the chloride issue, and there was a lot of opposition to the chloride issue, they said, well, look, it's only $100 more a year than what you're currently paying, but I'll bet that's not true, so we'll continue to talk about this. Currently, our water treatment plants, the Valencia and the Saugus plants combined, have a capacity of 27.5 million gallons a day. Valencia is also scheduled to be expanded to a total of 41 million gallons a day. That's a lot of water. Today, the area uses approximately 60 million gallons a day. 40 million gallons a day goes on landscaping. 20 million gallons a day goes through the homes. That 20 million gallons a day ends up as the discussion of this, what we can get out of the recycled plants. And realize that if we could reuse all 20 million gallons a day, we could cut water consumption down in Santa Clarita Valley by 30%. If we could take all of that, but right now they're saying we can't, so we'll talk about it. Lorraine West was on Community Conservation Solutions. Does everybody remember that little story? When she was on Community Conservation Solutions, and they were the ones that were advocating that we should just currently put everything in the river. And all of a sudden, Community Conservation Solutions shows up with a $1 million contract from the city for public outreach consulting. And there was a lot of discussion about that at the time. Now, these are all old charts. This is 2014. The only thing I added to these charts are those light pink arrows. So then all of a sudden in 2015, we went through the fiasco with deep well injection, if everybody remembers that. And deep well injection was a deal where they said, well, we're going to take and we're going to drill a well. It's the way it sounded. We're going to drill a well, and it's going to go way down. We're going to inject the brine into the ground. Well, all of a sudden, the project changed, and those wells were going to go underneath Stevenson Ranch, and it was more than one well. And this is what happened. There's Stevenson Ranch getting together to voice their displeasure. And we had a lot of people, a lot of individuals that indicated opposition to that deep well injection format. Down at City Hall, the same thing happened. This was City Hall. You know, it's amazing. I think partly our attendance today is because it rained. And when it rains, it seems like our attendance goes down. But what happens here in County Country Advisory Committee is we'll normally have about 20, 30 people until something like this happens. Then we pack the room. Okay, and all of a sudden, after it's all over, for some reason the people go away. I don't know why they don't seem interested in continuing. But this was a picture. This is what triggered the whole thing, was someone all of a sudden saw this drilling rig. So what happened? The community was so focused on the 100 milligram per liter issue, and they kind of ignored, and they were interested in preserving the amount of recycled water that we could for our water resources. They failed to really pay attention to deep well injection because it sounded so innocuous when we were first told about it. But then when they found out what it really was, they got really excited. Well, it's kind of the same thing that's going on now. People are not quite understanding what they just did when they canceled the EIR for recycled water. And the last time this happened, well, the Sanitation Board kind of lost a lot of their credibility. This is just some of the charts from those days. We were in the paper. We were at City Hall. Everything was going on. And you'll hear all the time when people will tell you, we have to do this because it's a federal law. Have you heard that? Everybody tell you that? Well, they're lying to you. The 1972 Clean Water Act does not say you have to put that water in the river or that you have to desalinate to 100 milligrams per liter. What the Clean Water Act says is it is a law which requires the states to take action to regulate the water standards within their state. So California went and passed what's called the Porter-Cologne Act, and the Porter-Cologne Act established 9 regional water quality assurance boards to oversee the water quality in the state. And guess who got to nominate and put all those people on the board? But the governor. So the governor puts these people on the board. They're unelected bureaucrats. They're typically individuals that probably don't have exactly the same concerns that you do. And that's how all of a sudden we have to clean the water up to a degree that's better than the water you get to drink. So we ended up with a Proposition 218 assessment district, and our Proposition 218 assessment district, which is the sanitation district, plans and implements the wastewater and solid waste management here in the city. But you can see that even at that time, now we're moving forward, I think, to 2017. You can see where that little pink arrow is pointing. It's still a big issue that we need recycled water in Santa Clarita. Well, here you go, 2015. And remember the $100 sales pitch? It's only going to cost you $100 a year. Well, what they decided to do is they decided to ramp up the cost to you every year so that, it's kind of like the story about the frog in the water, and you turn them up a little bit each time, and then pretty soon, they get used to it. So at some point in time, we're not exactly on the path that they expected, but my bill right now is $340 a month, so it's over the 2012, and it's going to go up to $564 in order to be able to maintain the project that they had intended to do. Well, on May 26th, Ferry and West, who was on the sanitation board at the time, they decided to hold off and see what they were going to do. And we asked them a whole bunch of questions. We asked them a whole bunch of questions. It's like they say, I hear this all the time. You can come to City Hall, and you can come to a city council meeting, and you can ask any question you want. Doesn't mean they're going to answer any of them, right? So that's part of what goes on. And what we were asking was how much money did you guys already spend in trying to sell this deep water injection plan? And how how much do you expect to spend in siting a new deep well injection site? Because they said, well, we can't do it in Stevenson Ranch, so we're going to find another site. But they ended up deciding they weren't going to do it at all. We never got an answer to that question either. So on May the 20th of 2015, they released the EIR. And when they released the EIR, this is still an old chart from 2015. They released the EIR, and it was released for final review or public review in early 2016. And guess what happened? What happened is they got sued. So the Clean Water Alliance sued them for several reasons. But one of the reasons that it sued them was because they decided to use old EIR information in determining how much water we could recycle. And they said that's no longer current. So the judge stopped stopped work, and because, like I said here, they were challenged on two fronts. One, study the impacts on the unarmored three-spine sickleback and the potential impact on other fish. Well, okay. So they started on work to complete the initial study on deep well injection, and Hyde is still saying that she strongly supports the use of recycled water. And what they did was they separated the two projects. They said, you know what, we're going to separate the EIRs. We'll have the one EIR for the chloride project, and we'll have the one EIR for recycling, and we'll see how well we're going to go and do with that. But then, just recently, here we are today, February the 26th, the double cross. All of a sudden, they decided they were going to discontinue the environmental studies related to using more recycled water and discharging less in the Santa Clarita River. Well, that's really interesting. So why would you think they would do that? Well, they talk about legal challenges. They said, you know, we had all these legal challenges that stalled the implementation, but basically it stalled the implementation on the chloride project. And since they had separated these two into two pieces, they really didn't have a project for recycled water. But what they decided to do was, like I said here, they separated the chloride project from the recycled water project. They never disclosed. Did you ever hear the timeline? I never heard the timeline for when the recycled water EIR was supposed to be complete. They just said they were going to do that. And they said because the lawsuits delayed the chloride reduction project for 2 years and cost ratepayers $5 million, we're going to go stop the other part of the project. The logic escapes me.
Who is that Clean Water? What I hear is nobody knows who this Clean Water Alliance.
Sure they know.
I'm telling you, I hear that.
It's Mr. Silverstein and Company is the attorney.
But what is their...
Who his plaintiffs are?
Yeah, what's the game? I mean,
I don't know. I mean, I guess we could go find out, but everybody knows it's Silverstein. It's the law firm. So our two Santa Clarita Valley Sanitation District water treatment plants are our valley's only currently available source of recycled water. Now, the water company recently came out with an article. It was an article in the Signal that said that they have their new last drop water recycling plan. And one thing that they stated and talked about was the Vista Canyon Ranch water factory that is supposed to produce 347,000 gallons a day. Well, let me explain it. That might sound like a large number, but 347 gallons a day is like less than 2% of the 20 million gallons a day that comes out of the other recycling plant. It's less than 1% of our total water usage. And we're not going to use all 347,000 gallons because they're going to use 2/3 of it on their project. And we know that the water company is talking about putting pipes in the ground. They are talking about having a pipe up to the north to get the amount of water that they're going to get out of the water factory, and that's a good thing. I mean, I applaud them for doing that, but it's a drop in the bucket. I mean, it's not a whole bunch at all. So it's great that the water company is finally willing to start putting pipes in the ground and transport it to where it's needed. But the sanitation district, led by members of our city council, by the way, our county supervisor was not there. This was all done by our city council, by Lorraine and Marcia, Lorraine West and Marcia McLean, decided to discontinue the effort to make this water available. And to me, I think it's unconscionable because it's a deal where we end up in a drought situation, we have resources that we can use, and we're not going to use them. So I'd like you to go read my article coming out in the Gazette tomorrow, titled, Is Santa Clarita Led by Ants or Grasshoppers? And if you've read Aesop's Fable, you know what I'm talking about. So I think the only thing left for us to do is to go visit the city council and ask those questions, and it's exactly what I intend to do. Are there any questions? Okay.
What's going on with the concentrated brine program? I mean, so the deep well injection got pulled back.
That's right. And what they decided to do is concentrate the brine and truck it to Carson.
Right, exactly.
Okay. As far as I know, unless somebody's hiding something again, when we see the new ER, that's what they're going to do. They're going to truck it to Carson. They don't want to spend the money to put a pipeline to put it in the joint outfall system. They're just going to truck it to Carson. So will we ever get to use recycled water to offset the need for ground and state water? Probably not in our lifetime, unless our sanitation district decides to change their path. And so, yeah.
Because of the delays that have been going on,
Yeah.
are the downstream water interests, I always heard that we were going to be penalized because we were so far behind on the projects. And that, United Water, that's downstream, was going to sue us because we weren't in compliance with...
Well, the date that was finally set for us to come up to speed and have this thing running was in 2019. I think anybody that has been through any of this stuff knows that if the judge says you can't do it till 2019, they're not going to. The state can't penalize you for following the judge's rule, or you have grounds to sue. So the point is now we're not in violation yet because our 2019 date hasn't passed. But now we're setting a new date based upon the lawsuit, and we'll see what the judge says, because they're going back to court. They've been in court now 3 times, and the 4th time is coming.